Number one, the tariffs, we've talked about nothing about tariffs for the last month. The tariff chapter is one chapter in a book of economic policies that's going to include deregulation, energy dominance, extension and tax reform, foreign investment in the United States. So it's important, but it's one thing. And those things should give markets a lot of certainty. Second thing is what the tariffs are designed to do is address a fundamental problem of unfairness. And Mike Froman, I just heard him on earlier. The global trading system has brought great benefits, but it's been inherently unfair to the United States in many ways. China, many other countries have not followed those rules, and it's had devastating effects in my home state of Pennsylvania, my hometown. When I was growing up, the carpet mill had 2,000 employees. It has 200 now. So what's happening here is to address unfairness and also bring back a much stronger manufacturing base in the United States. That's the goal.
Well, I really appreciated what you said on CNBC this morning, and I think that's exactly right. People who aren't from Pennsylvania or from these places that have been devastated don't realize the effect that our current economic policy has had on them, and it really feels like this is a great deal for the people of the Commonwealth and people in places like that.
Yeah, Jack, it's easy to forget sometimes. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. And I did 500 visits across Pennsylvania in the last year, in the last 2024. And you'd hear it over and over again in these small towns where manufacturers went out of business. And it's, listen, if you have fair trading, if you have a fair playing field, the American worker, the most innovative, hardworking, grittiest worker in the world in Pennsylvania, and we just haven't had fairness. And there's lots of violators, but the biggest violator of all has been China. And China has not followed by the rules. And so I was happy to see that President Trump's tariffs are directed, particularly the worst of it's directed towards China, because China, of the many unfairnesses we've seen in the global trading system, China's been at the top of the list.
That's exactly right. And you'll have these practices that are completely broken. The World Trade Organization is sitting there. China was let in. People warned about it. President Trump warned about this all the way back when, before it happened, before 1999. And people said, we can't trust China. We can't trust China. Well, it turns out he was exactly right. And to the point where, you even have timber that's chopped, trees that are chopped down in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that get sent to China, that get worked there, and all the woodworking is done there and then shipped back. And yet somehow we think that this process is good for Pennsylvanians. It's just not.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And listen, if you ask me, I'll be honest, if you asked me 20, 30 years ago, I'd have said, well, listen, there's a lot of benefits from that. But the cost became clear. You've had free traders, people that say they're free traders, that have basically said, listen, eventually China's going to come on board with the rules. Eventually Europe's going to be fair. It's not been working. And the people that have been hurt most by it are the people that are living paycheck to paycheck. And, Jack, this, and I talked about it during the campaign. 60% of Pennsylvanians, 60% live paycheck to paycheck. And so if you look at them and how those towns have been gutted by unfair practices, you say, listen, we got to change it. And the ironic thing about it is President Trump was talking about it 30 or 40 years ago. He was one of the few. And unfortunately, what he predicted has turned out to be what happened.